The first thing Rowan Mercer saw that morning was his 7-year-old daughter quietly slipping the last slice of bread back into the kitchen cabinet. She smiled as if she had already eaten, pretending she wasn't hungry, while her father searched every pocket of his worn jacket for enough coins to buy milk. That tiny act of sacrifice shattered something inside him, yet he forced himself to smile because she had already lost one parent, and he refused to let her lose hope too. Before we continue this emotional journey, welcome to Pure Kindness. If you believe hope can rise from the darkest moments, that compassion can change lives, and that every person deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts around the world. Rowan had never imagined life would become so cruel. 3 years earlier he had been one of the most respected mechanics in his small industrial town, known for repairing engines that others considered impossible to save. His wife, Marin, often joked that Rowan could hear a car's heartbeat simply by standing beside it. Their little garage had been filled with laughter, loyal customers, and dreams of one day expanding into a family business. Then tragedy struck without warning. Marin died after a sudden illness that advanced far faster than doctors expected, leaving Rowan alone to raise their daughter, Ivy. Medical bills swallowed every dollar they had saved, and when the landlord sold the garage property, Rowan lost not only his business but also the place where every memory of his wife seemed to live. Since then, every sunrise felt like another test of how much pain one man could endure without breaking completely. The afternoon sun burned brightly over the city's industrial salvage district as Rowan walked between endless rows of rusted vehicles. Heat shimmered above cracked pavement while abandoned machinery cast long shadows that looked almost alive. Most buyers ignored the oldest section of the yard, where forgotten wrecks slowly disappeared beneath weeds and dust. Rowan wasn't searching for beauty. He was searching for possibility. Deep inside, the instincts that had once made him a brilliant mechanic refused to die. He noticed 5 severely damaged classic vehicles pushed together behind collapsed fencing. Their paint had vanished beneath rust, windows were shattered, and vines wrapped around twisted metal like nature had claimed them forever. Yet something about their frames felt strangely untouched. Beneath decades of neglect, Rowan sensed unusual craftsmanship hidden beneath the decay. The salvage manager barely looked up from his paperwork before laughing and offering the entire group for $500 simply because nobody else wanted them. Rowan counted every bill he had left, knowing he was risking nearly everything. It wasn't logic that convinced him. It was instinct, the same instinct Marin had always trusted. With trembling hands he completed the purchase, hoping that somehow those forgotten machines carried a future no one else could see. News of the strange purchase spread surprisingly fast because the junkyard happened to belong to Mercer Automotive Holdings, one of the country's largest automotive corporations. Its ambitious chief executive, Victor Hale, happened to tour the property later that day. Surrounded by expensive suits and luxury vehicles, he stopped when employees jokingly described the desperate single father who had wasted his last $500 on what looked like 5 worthless piles of scrap. Victor couldn't hide his amusement. To him, the purchase perfectly represented the difference between wealthy businessmen and dreamers who refused to accept reality. He laughed openly, convinced the struggling mechanic had just made the worst financial decision of his life. But Rowan ignored every insult. Day after day he worked beneath bright afternoon skies outside the small rented shed behind his modest home. Sweat soaked through his faded shirt as sparks flew across the concrete. Ivy sat nearby after school, completing homework while secretly watching her father battle impossible repairs with endless patience. Sometimes Rowan found himself staring at old photographs of Marin taped above his workbench, silently wondering whether she would still believe in him if she could see how far life had pushed them. Every bolt he loosened felt like another conversation with the woman who had always reminded him that broken things deserved one more chance. As weeks passed, Rowan discovered something astonishing hidden beneath years of corrosion. The 5 vehicles were not ordinary production cars at all. They were experimental engineering prototypes built decades earlier during a confidential research partnership that had collapsed before public release. Their handmade suspension systems, lightweight alloy structures, and revolutionary safety concepts had been considered decades ahead of their time. Even more remarkable, original documentation remained hidden inside sealed compartments protected from moisture. Those forgotten records proved the vehicles represented the earliest surviving examples of technologies that had later transformed the entire automotive industry. Historians, collectors, and restoration experts quickly realized the discovery's extraordinary significance. Word spread through automotive museums, engineering institutes, and international collectors. Suddenly journalists crowded Rowan's driveway under brilliant daytime skies while camera crews filmed the once-forgotten father whose impossible gamble had uncovered an important piece of engineering history. The same people who had pitted him now watched with amazement as experts confirmed the collection could become one of the most valuable restoration projects ever documented. When Victor Hale learned the truth, every trace of confidence disappeared from his face. Internal investigations revealed the corporation had unknowingly sold priceless historical assets because decades-old inventory records had been incomplete. Shareholders questioned management. Industry experts criticized the careless oversight. The man who had mocked Rowan's judgment suddenly found himself facing one of the most embarrassing corporate mistakes in company history. Victor personally visited Rowan's workshop on a warm afternoon filled with golden sunlight reflecting from polished metal. The contrast between both men couldn't have been greater. One wore an expensive tailored suit carrying the weight of public embarrassment. The other stood in grease-stained clothes carrying years of private heartbreak. Yet for the first time, wealth offered no advantage. Victor desperately tried to convince Rowan to sell the vehicles back before international auctions and museums became involved. The corporation needed those prototypes to repair its damaged reputation and preserve its legacy. Rowan quietly listened without anger or revenge. Months earlier he would have accepted almost any offer simply to feed his daughter. Now, however, the cars represented something greater than money. They represented faith, perseverance, and the invisible value hidden inside everything society chooses to abandon. Instead of demanding impossible wealth, Rowan made an unexpected decision that stunned everyone following the story. He agreed to transfer the collection only under conditions that no lawyer or investor expected. The company would fully fund a vocational scholarship program for struggling single parents learning mechanical trades. It would restore his late wife's original neighborhood garage as a community training center. It would also establish a permanent museum